Next up, we will be sharing on how setting up a trust for CPF savings may be sensible. Would it be advisable to let young adults inherit lump sums of CPF monies? Learn about how to go beyond a nomination for flexibility in the distribution, even protecting your CPF savings from your beneficiaries' creditors. We will be inviting Ms. Ooi Sen Tee, Relationship Manager of Precepts International Pte Ltd, to share with us. With 20 years of experience from banking to independent financial advisory and cross-border estate planning from Malaysia to Singapore, Ms. Ooi is responsible for digital trust development with PreceptsGroup. Ms. Ooi Sen Tee, please.
Good morning. My name is Sen Tee. I hope you have had your mid-morning drinks before this session, such as coffee, tea, or Milo. I'm here today to share with you particularly what are the better ways for distributing our CPF savings. As we are working hard during our lifetime, accumulating our CPF savings for retirement, how can we give better with our CPF savings if the fund is left behind to someone else? We might want to give to the intended people in a way that we wish it to be. And here I am sharing with you what are the wider possibilities of using a trust to distribute our CPF savings and achieve our distribution objectives. What are the differences then between nominee and trustee? Because they have different role and responsibility in the scope of distributing our CPF savings. And lastly, I'll share with you a few examples of how a planned distribution is like. Okay, if you have attended previous session by Georgina, I think we are all aware that CPF savings is actually excluded from our will. Okay, this is actually a first concern. Okay, if we have written a good will, a well-written will, to distribute our assets in a way that we wish it to be, upon our passing, yes, all our assets will be distributed according to the wishes, but just not our CPF savings, because CPF savings is not part of our assets, part of our estate, hence it cannot be willed away. This is very important for us to take note of. If we like to specify who we wish to give our CPF savings to and allocate the share to each of the beneficiary or nominee, we have to make our CPF nomination. It's really the utmost important thing to do when we have a CPF account. Upon our passing, CPF board will distribute the savings according to the nomination made during our lifetime. Okay, then we can specify who should receive them. What if without CPF nomination? CPF board will transfer our CPF savings to Public Trustee Office, and the PTO will distribute according to the Intestate Succession Act of ISA in Singapore. For Muslim, it will go according to the administration of Muslim law. That simply means that we are no longer able to specify who we wished for them to receive. In fact, we will just follow a table that's stated under our Act to distribute accordingly. So if we wish to specify who we wish to give to, it's really important to make our CPF nomination. Now we recognize it is very important, but some of us might also recognize some concerns that can arise from CPF nomination. What are the potential concerns? Through nomination, our CPF nominee will receive our CPF savings as and when we passed away. What if it's not the right time yet? We might not want our CPF savings to be given at a time, at the age of our young beneficiaries, and we have no control because it's really the time that we passed on, our CPF savings will then be given to the beneficiary, to the nominee who we name under our CPF nomination. So there's no control on when to pay out. And another concern is, what if we have young nominee left behind? Are their needs going to be compromised? Are we able to utilize our CPF savings to continue to provide for them? And apart from not being able to time when is it going to pay out, a lump sum payout is actually how it is going to be paid out to our nominees. And that can lead to further concerns, right? Sometimes we might think that, okay, it's not the right time, and a lump sum given, will that result in squandering if they are not matured enough, especially our young nominees? Okay, and what if they are distracted from the priority in life? When they have the pool of money, they are distracted in what is important in life, and then they end up focusing on how to spend the money. For elderly, a lump sum may pose some other risks as well. They can become prey to scammers, attract to the wrongful attention. Hence, this is actually not a good thing, right? A lump sum payout is not wise at all. And some of us have wondered, can I have a second group of people that I want to benefit if my main group of people that's supposed to receive my CPF savings is no longer around? With nomination, unfortunately, we cannot have substitute set of nominee. What will happen is, if you looked at yourself and your nominee it's almost the same age and we travel often together. For example, if I nominate someone and myself and my nominee happen to pass away together simultaneously, and we can't determine who died first. The law says that whoever is older will be deemed as to have died first. If my nominee is younger, my nomination will then be void, and my CPF savings will now be distributed according to the ISA. Will not be another set of intended people that I want them to receive. That's another concern, right? And also, when we recognize that there is no protection actually from our nominee's creditor, simply means that when we nominate someone as our nominee, upon our passing, our CPF savings will then be transferred to the person, given to the person, our nominee. If our nominee is active in the business world, chances of them facing creditor's claim is fairly high. And what if they have such situation that our CPF funds is actually subject to their situations? Are there ways that we can prevent this? While we recognize the concerns, we will then think, I will have different unique set of beneficiaries. And different beneficiary will have different needs because they are of different ages. And can I have a customized distribution to cater to their needs? Because they are the people that I know the best. I know how to continue to provide for them in a way that I wish it to be from my CPF savings. Can I cater a different way of giving among all our beneficiaries, among all our nominees, for their different needs and circumstances? And if I like to prioritize some of the nominees, for example, they are highly dependent on me, on my resources if I'm gone, right? I want to put them as a main person to receive my CPF savings, to continue to benefit and provide for them. Can I do so? But I also wish to give to another set of beneficiary or nominee that if my main group of nominees should have gone or didn't finish, is not utilizing fully of my CPF savings, then can I then transfer to the second set of the group? I would like to have the prioritization done, okay? And how do I ensure then also if my main beneficiary or nominee are gone, can my CPF savings to be put to good use? I like to contribute to a good cause. Can I do that? So if I like to customize all these distributions, we will then have a thought of how we can cater to the different category of nominees that we have. I'm taking this contrast example that we will have, chances are we will have minor children living behind, and aged parents and charitable organizations that we still want to give to a good cause to. So let's look at just simple, these three categories, if these are the three that we like to benefit from our CPF savings. Each of them will have different ways of how we want to cater to their needs. For minor children, they are highly dependent on us as a parent. And when we passed on, we want to ensure that our CPF saving is able to be used to continue to provide for them until they are at the adult age, right? So, and the frequent payout for their daily expenses is important because they have high needs. Minor nominees are young and they have constant needs, medical costs, education. I like to have a plan that my CPF saving is to be paid out in a way that is more frequently, such as monthly, so that we can cater for their constant needs that it arise. And for my aged parents, I can put them as nominee, but a lump sum paid out to them, they might not be able to manage the money or handle the pool of money very well. And it also poses some risk for my aged parents. If I give them a lump sum, we can then attract wrongful attention. Can a staggered manner be a better way of giving so that we can continue to provide, at the same time, we can protect them from all this unnecessary attention? Lastly, charitable organization. When it comes to organization, most of us might think that I can trust they have a good set of guidelines to utilize the fund. then I can just give a lump sum right away. So this is how we looked at how we can customize for each category of people that we like to benefit to. Can we achieve that? Recognizing the concerns, and now we like to have a customized distribution? Answer is yes. Here I am introducing to you the concept of a trust. A settlor, who is the account holder, when you set up a trust during your lifetime, you became a settlor. You can then appoint a trustee and specify who you want to name as your beneficiaries on your trust deed and how you wish to give your CPF savings to each of them, as I mentioned earlier, to cater to their different needs. Specify them and document it on the trust deed. And the settlor, ourselves, and trustee, appointed trustee, can now sign on the deed and enter to an arrangement. After that, as settlor, also the account holder will have to make our CPF nomination to that trustee, to the appointed trustee. Upon our passing, our trustee, as a nominee, as we made the nomination to the trustee, will receive the funds. However, the trustee has a duty to carry out the terms of the trust, has a legal obligation now. Okay? They will receive the funds upon our demise and became the legal owner of the trust fund, which is our CPF savings. The trustee will have to manage and safeguard the trust fund and always act for the best interest for the beneficiaries. And the beneficiaries whom you name in the trust deed will then be entitled to the benefits of the trust fund and enjoy your distribution plan that you put out for them in a way that is best suitable for their circumstances. While we understand this is a trust concept, pertaining nomination, it can get a little confusing because there are different roles in this distribution. Let's look at the first half of the slide. You have now account holder. You make nomination. This is what we usually would do, right? It's very important to even make a nomination today if you haven't done so. We make a nomination to a group of people that we wish to give our CPF savings to. They are called the nominees. Okay? They are the people who we want them to receive our CPF savings upon our passing. While setting up trust, we have different roles for different people. Now you have a trustee. As an account holder, as I mentioned, now you became settlor, you set up the trust, you appoint a trustee to carry out the duty you set out at the trust, to take care of your beneficiary using your CPF savings. And the CPF nomination now is still made to the trustee, and the trustee in the process of CPF nomination is actually your nominee. So the trustee is actually the recipient of your CPF funds upon your passing. And in return, after that, upon receiving the funds, the trustee will then follow what you set out at the trust to benefit and to distribute according to the plan you put in place to your beneficiaries. So now the nominee through nomination is the one that's supposed to receive your funds, now became your beneficiaries through a trust setup. Okay, so if you looked at that, a nominee is the one who received the money. Okay, so it's the group that I like them to receive the money, but the trustee now is also the one who received the money. What are the differences between a nominee and a trustee? Okay, a nominee is a person or organization whom you appoint to receive a share of your CPF savings. So if you look at that, it's actually a gift to them. They're entitled to the share that you allocate on your CPF nomination upon your passing. So they have all the right to own the money. Okay, it's a gift to them. A trustee, on the other hand, in general acts as the legal owner of the trust asset. They receive the your CPF savings, and is responsible for handling the distribution of the asset in the trust. A trustee also has a duty to carry out the distribution plan of the settlor according to the terms of the trust deed and letter of wishes. So it's wearing different hats. It's still receiving your money, but the trustee has a legal obligation to carry out the documents that you set out, and you specify your wishes on that piece of document. He or she needs to follow the instructions to take care of your beneficiaries. Okay. This is actually a scenario that I like to share. A lot of times, some of us might actually nominate our CPF savings to a nominee, which our nominee is actually by proxy our trustee. I have a client of mine, without understanding or made aware of the possibility of using a trust to distribute his CPF savings, he actually made nomination to his sibling, a trusted sibling. a sibling that he thinks he can entrust to take care of the funds. He actually wants to use the funds if he passed on to benefit the elderly parents. So they have this verbal arrangement while making CPF nomination to a nominee who is the trusted sibling, having a separate verbal arrangement on how to utilize the funds for the elderly parents. Because his concern is parents are old, they might not be able to manage the money. It's better to have someone else holding on to it for them. But think about it, as I mentioned at the slide earlier, a nominee has no legal obligations. And verbal arrangement is easily forgotten. Many years later, upon our passing, we might not be able to recall what we have said and what has been arranged. So, and nominee receiving your CPF savings through nomination is actually a gift to them. Okay, it's nothing wrong for them to receive the fund and own it. So there's no legal obligation, even though the end objective of my client is actually to take care of the elderly parents. Why not make this arrangement to a trust document? Document it and record it on a trust deed. Set up a trust and make your nominee, who is the trusted sibling in this case, the trustee, appoint the sibling as a trustee. Now the trustee has a legal obligation and fiduciary duty to carry out the instructions, take care of the parents for you. And what is better is there are instructions clearly stated on these documents. How is it going to be distributed? And who are those people? So even many years later, it's forgotten, you still have something recorded, and it's a legal document for the trustee to remember, and the siblings will know very well what are your wishes and how to distribute your funds for you. Now we understand how a trust structure works and what are the different roles that can help us to distribute our CPF savings. A trust can actually expand our options for CPF nomination. Through a trust structure, you can now specify how flexible you want your payout to be. Okay, it can be a staggered manner, it can be lump sum. It's up to you, depending on the nominee or beneficiary circumstances. And you can also put a vesting age, meaning when is a better age for the nominee to receive the pool of funds. You can specify the age that you deem is more appropriate. Okay, a substitute group of beneficiaries is also possible if the trust structure allows. You can have two groups of beneficiary. If the main group don't survive, then you can go to the second group. Okay, and trustee discretion is also very important to ring-fence our funds. How so? Okay, we expand the options. Now we can address those concerns that we have just said earlier. Okay, for minor and elderly, they are vulnerables. We like to provide for them more frequently in a way for as long as it can through our CPF savings. Hence, we like to pay out in a flexible payout way of monthly, quarterly, half-yearly, or yearly. So for another group of beneficiaries, which are younger and young adults, you want to avoid inheritance going wrong. You might have worries that, okay, at certain age, if they received, I can't time it, I don't know when they'll receive it, it's better that I put down an age I think they are able to handle and more mature to handle a big lump sum of money. You can set a later age, an age that they should receive the money. Okay? You can also now prioritize your beneficiaries by having two groups of beneficiaries. This can also mitigate issues that I just shared earlier for common disaster. If myself and my nominee passed away together, my nominee being younger, even though there's no nomination anymore, but because of the trust, my trustee can now hold on to the fund to give to another set of beneficiaries that I name in the trust when I set up the trust. So it will still go to the intended people that I wish my money to go to. Lastly, with the discretionary trust, your trustee can actually exercise discretion. What it means is, if during our passing, upon we have passed away, our funds is given to our nominee, our beneficiaries now, in this case. Okay? If my beneficiaries go into unfavorable situation and they are facing some creditors' claim into some situation that my CPF savings, if to be given to them, will have the risk of being taken away by the creditors. So the trustee now can exercise discretion through a trust structure to put the distribution on hold first until the beneficiary is out of their trouble. Or if you have other set of beneficiaries set out in the trustee can now use the fund to benefit the rest of the beneficiary instead of going to the creditor's hand. So this is how we can ring-fence our fund from the situation of our beneficiaries. Right, I'm coming to the last part of my session. I'm going to share some of the illustrations on how we can imagine our CPF savings that we left behind can actually continue to provide for our loved ones through a planned distribution. Let's look at the first example. I'm taking minor children as the first, because as I mentioned, it's really of our worries as parents if we have minor children left behind, and they are really high needs category. We need to continue to provide for them, make sure that the providence is there, their needs are not compromised, they are not lacking. We can entrust a guardian to take care of their welfare, but we wouldn't want to add financial burden to the guardian, right? So we want to ensure that we have some resources to continue to support them in terms of daily maintenance, education fees, and medical costs. So let's look at real figure. If a parents pass away together, unfortunately, leaving behind about 300,000, which is quite common, right? Each of them 150,000. Leaving behind this amount of money, how it can be utilized if you have set out the trust instructions in the trust to benefit them, to still continue to provide for them with a monthly provision of $1,000 over 12 months for perhaps until they're 21 years old. If you just want to provide throughout the tender age years, so until 21 years old perhaps, you can give out a lump sum after that. That is where you specify the vesting age. And during this period of time, they at least have a deployment from your CPF savings to be utilized to continue to fund for the actual needs for your young children and help your guardian to ease the financial burden. But some of us might think a bit further. 21 years old, a lump sum. What can I do? Maybe it's a bit young to receive six figures. So you can actually still make such planning that you can put an age of 30 years old. That's what we call, you can actually put an age, a vesting age that you think is more appropriate. Put an age of 30 years old to pay out the lump sum, you can do so. And by doing that, we actually participate in our children's milestone. Because by 30 years old, maybe perhaps our children is more matured, and the fund comes just right in time to help them with some homegrown business or buying the first property, perhaps their home. So it's something that as parents that we can still see through. The money can come in time to help them to fund for the milestone, with the needs of growing to that age, and then their obligations and commitments, and then we can actually participate in that to help them with the funding. On the other hand, if you just think that I can't really know 30 years old what my child will be having and experiencing, I think it's a bit too far for me to see it. Let's just let the $1,000 go on after 21 years old until the fund is exhausted. You can do so. $1,000, what can you do after 21 years old? After schooling, graduation, perhaps they're coming out to work as they're starting out with the early years career, you can then supplement to their income. Especially time like now, we are having pandemic crisis. It's quite challenging to find a decent job, right, for perhaps young graduates. So you can then, with the $1,000 monthly, supplement to that journey with them and reminding them that you are here to handhold them. And this can create values among your young beneficiaries too, because it's not a lump sum easily given overnight, and then most likely it's too easy, and sometimes it will be then not treasured. By giving a monthly $1,000 over a period of time, you can actually stretch over 9 years. Walking this journey with them over 9 years, you can create values such as saving habits. They will know that if they want to have big purchases, they still need to save it up because the money is not a lump sum given to them. It will come in a staggered manner. It's a stream of income for them. You can supplement that and grow with them. So this is pertaining our young children growing up, young beneficiaries, how we want to protect them. Last but not least, we have our elderly. And if we are leaving behind our CPF savings for our parents who are old and vulnerable, let's say this example, they are 70 years old, we wish to continue to take care of them. Of course, it is our top priority to still provide for their daily maintenance and medical needs. So we can do a monthly payout as well, and specify this distribution manner on the trust. Says that monthly payout $1,500 to my parents over 12 months until they are no longer around. I'm taking an example of 15 years. Let's say you have spent 270,000 over these years to help them with all these actual needs. It's very important because elderly, what we're worrying is mental incapacity is really a growing concern. It is really something that is haunting us every day because that's why when we are old, we have to think of planning such as setting out LPA and all this planning. So it's very important that we make this planning if we were to leave behind a lump sum for our elderly parents. And for the fact that they might not be able to judge very well, they might not be able to manage the funds very well too. And we then expose them to unnecessary risks, as I mentioned. They will have wrongful attention and undue influence. The money can come overnight and can lose overnight. We wouldn't want that to happen for elderly parents. So what we want is to continue to provide for them through a trust structure of our CPF savings. And what is better is if you have a balance. If you have specified a substitute group of either an organization or people to receive the funds, a balance of even 30 years old can go to some needy people that you can actually benefit for a good cause, right? Rather than it's just left there. But $30,000, I think it can actually benefit very much for those who really in need. Okay, so I've ended my session. Before I close, I think we like to clear this misconception on trust. A lot of us often think traditionally a trust is actually a sole province of the wealthy. You must have a lot of money. In actual fact, it is to protect your loved ones. And the need for a trust is determined by the size of wealth. It is actually to ensure providence with a planned distribution. You have seen the illustration how 300,000 can do. So with that now, we can start to realize that there are wider possibilities by using a trust for your CPF savings. Done with my sessions. There are some questions here. Okay. Can the nominee be foreigner, meaning that they are not PR or Singaporean? So when you mention nominee means you make a CPF nomination. You can actually nominate to anybody that you want. It can be a foreigner, of course. You can. And how can I protect my beneficiaries against an unfortunate case of rogue trustee, or if the distributions has not been handled as instructed? Okay, first of all, you can set up a trust by appointing an individual. So the risk that you mentioned here mainly is really when you have an individual trustee, of course, is very valid. So when we set up a trust and appoint an individual trustee, of course, the trustee has to fulfill certain criteria. It has to be someone who we can trust and accountable. It's very important. And if you really don't have such person, you can always appoint a professional trustee, which is a company, to avoid such risks that you mentioned. Okay? So for counter-checking how a trustee executing your deed or in the instructions, usually if you have a set of beneficiaries who are adult, they are able to counter-check and then understood, because they would have known that what kind of distribution plan you put in place for them after your passing. So they will have to then work with the trustee. If the trustee didn't really do a good job, they will then have to take action on the trustee. Okay, so it is pretty much an affair between the individual trustee and the beneficiaries. But if you were to appoint a professional trustee, a corporate trustee, of course then, for example, Precepts Trustee, we are licensed by MAS, regulated by MAS, so we are licensed. Hence, when we handle trust funds, we have a set of guidelines that we have to follow. There are a lot of regulations that is watching out on us. So we will then have this fiduciary duty to honor, and then we will carry it out as what a trustee should do, the way it should distribute your CPF savings, to administer your funds. Do I have some more time for one more? Okay. If I wish to utilize the trust structure, do I need to make a CPF nomination to the trustee? Otherwise, do I have to take steps to register the trust with CPF? So When we set up a trust, it's really out of CPF nomination. It's an outside arrangement that you get it done apart from CPF nomination. It's nothing to do with CPF nomination. CPF nomination is the only way your money will be paid out from CPF pot, because your money basically is at the account with CPF pot. So you want to distribute it out, you need to go through nomination and specify who you want to put down as a named nominee to receive your funds upon your passing. So by having a trust structure, it's a separate arrangement. After you set up the trust, you have appointed a trustee, you have to still make the nomination to that trustee. So it's a separate thing. So you have to make a nomination to the trustee, then upon passing, the CPF board will then pay out according to the CPF nomination to the trustee. And as I mentioned just now, a trustee will then have a set of duties to follow closely with the instruction that we put on our trustee when we set up the funds. Okay, I have about 2 minutes. Okay. Will the monies with trustee grow interest while in its holding till disbursement to beneficiaries? It's very good questions. Okay, so if you were to appoint an individual trustee, it's an arrangement that the trustee will make when it comes to investing your trust fund. So usually, in generic terms, as trustee like us, professional trustee, we will usually park the trust fund at very risk-free instruments to safeguard the fund, because our role and duty is really to safeguard the funds. It's not to risk it, end of the day, to benefit the beneficiaries. So if you involve into too high-risk investment, there are risks involved. So these are the things to take note of for individual trustee. Okay, I think I'll end my session here. Thank you very much, and I wish all stay well and safe. Thank you.